Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. We're here. We're back at it again, and we're going to get on into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. And also shout out to Undercaste Studios. We're back here again. We're going to be trying to do this more often. But before we get into that, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Organic herbs and botanicals, skincare and edibles. Wellness for body and mind. The Brothers Apothecary. Fine teas and remedies. Ronald Records. From indie gems to classic hits, discover the heart of local music. With live shows all the time, up close and personal, and regular releases on their in-house label. Ronald Records. Supporting the community, one track at a time. All right, thank y'all so much for watching. Again, shout out the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get on into it. Here is today's guest.
Hey, this is Tyler with Casual Panic.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Doing all right, man. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about, who you are, where you're from, what you do, give us that Tinder profile of your involvement.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my name is Tyler. I've been in Seattle for a long time, over 20 years. Been a long time home for me, and been really excited to get more into the music scene here because it's got such a rich history, and so that's something that I'm really excited about and that we're getting to be a part of.
Hell yeah. Where were you at before Seattle?
Pullman, Washington.
Oh, okay.
College, yeah.
Okay, so you're still have you always been Pacific Northwest?
Northwest, yeah, my life.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And then what got you started in music initially?
Yeah, my first opportunity to play was trumpet in sixth grade band where I did about 3 weeks of trying to play the trumpet. And it's an extremely hard instrument, so I ended up faking it the rest of the year. So that was my first real foray into music. And then in high school, started taking it seriously. I got a guitar and, started practicing. And Joe and I, who's actually in the band now, he kind of helped me out. He was playing guitar a little bit before me. He kind of showed me some chords. And pretty soon we were talking about how we can form a band.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's rad.
Yeah.
Oh, God. And before we officially get into more of what you do in the present day, I do have a couple foundation questions I like to check in with everybody on. Yeah. And this first one, it's one we ask early, it's one we ask often, and it's definitely a crowd favorite. What was the first album you ever bought with your own money?
Yeah. Okay, so there's 3 that I bought at the same time.
Okay, hell yeah.
And it's a little bit of a kind of a nice, I guess, spectrum of styles. So in no particular order, it was Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill.
Okay.
It was Rage Against the Machine. And then it was Hootie and the Blowfish.
Whoa.
Those are the top 3 CDs that I got. Yeah.
That is a wild spread.
Yeah.
How old were you when you did that?
I was probably 12, 13. This was, back in the 90s, so it's been a little while. And all 3 albums are absolute bangers still. Yeah,
very much so. That's a quality spread, especially for a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
I should ask this in the earlier question. Was anybody else in your household musical at all? Was anybody in your family, or are you the first generation musician?
Yeah, no one is musical at all. It's kind of bizarre that I had such a kind of bug for it. I just kind of really felt like it was something that piqued my interest. And I think I got into music pretty early on, just listening to everything. And I don't think I realized how important it was to me at the time, but I really spent a lot of time just listening to a lot of music. And then at a certain point, you're like, I want to try to play this, and start to do it myself if I can.
Hell yeah, that's rad. And then what was one of the first live shows you ever went to? That was specifically one you wanted to go to. So you saw it was happening, got tickets and went to it.
It was Metallica at Key Arena, sophomore year of high school. Very first concert that I went to. It was wild. I'd never really been exposed to anything like that. I went with my bandmates at the time, and we hadn't been around like weed smoke or any of that kind of stuff. People were just having a great time. We were very young, very impressionable at the time, and we just had a blast. And my buddy Ty's dad dropped us off and picked us up afterwards, and we just kind of had our minds blown for 2 straight hours.
Oh, damn, I bet.
Yeah.
Who was playing with them for that one?
I think Corrosions of Conformity was the opener. Okay. Yeah.
Man, I bet that was a wild show.
That was a good show, yeah.
This wasn't the first one I got tickets and went to, but like the first real concert I ever went to was Ozfest 2005.
Okay.
Up here, actually.
Okay, yeah.
My dad wouldn't take me to go see them, so my mom got tickets for both of us to go. So she spent the whole day with me at Oz because she wasn't just going to leave me by myself.
Right.
Like, we went, and the headlining groups were, Ozzy, obviously, but Iron Maiden, In Flames, Black Label Society, and Mudvayne were the mainstay.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So no, that's the big loud experiences for the first time are definitely always really enjoyable.
It really is, yeah. And then you kind of find your people a little bit. You're like, oh, okay, this is like kind of a community, and people are into the same thing that I'm into. And we did a Ozfest. I think it might have been like 03, 04. It wasn't 05.
Yeah.
I forget the headliners, Ozzy, obviously. But yeah, that was a long day. I don't think I could do that now.
No, I don't think I could do a festival of any kind these days. And before we officially get into you in the present day, do you have a defining moment where you decided you wanted to take music more seriously?
When I was in college, I was a really awful singer. I was in a punk band. I was the guitar player, and I was an average guitar player, but I really wanted to be a singer. Like, that was always kind of the dream, is like, I want to be a front man, do the singing. I was just a terrible, terrible singer. And my senior year, I kind of set this goal. I was like, there's this really popular open mic night in Pullman. It's at this bar called Rico's, and, it gets a good turnout. And I was like, my goal before I'm out of here is to play at this open mic. And so I got to find, some songs I can play. I took a class. It was a singing class to kind of help me, like, just learn on some basic things like breathing and some warm-up vocals and things like that, warm-up exercises. And at the end of the year, I went and did the 3-song set at this open mic. I did 2 covers and an original, and really well received. And it kind of felt like, okay, this is something that I can kind of continue to pursue, and if I can find something that's like in the pocket for me, I can do it well. I probably don't have like the greatest range, and I'm never going to be the greatest singer, but there's certain things that I can do well that I really enjoy. And so kind of helped me hone in on what that was. And that experience was just such, it was just a really good feeling to know, okay, I can set this goal, I can do this thing, and then to feel like the support of friends and kind of people. Like, it's a little bit of an addictive feeling, to be honest with you. You get that adulation, and you're like, oh, okay, I could do this again.
Yeah. What were the 2 covers?
I did While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Nice.
And boy, I don't think I remember the second cover, to be honest with you.
That's okay.
It's been a while.
Yeah, that other cover, While My Guitar Gently Weeps is a banger. Like, that's
it is
quality jam.
It is, yeah.
If you're willing to like put the time into it, like, I could imagine if that was well received, then you definitely nailed it.
I think I did it well. If I can rehearse it 100 times, I have got a shot. And it was one of those that it was in the pocket, and I figured out, okay, this is a song I think I can do. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's rad. But now let's go ahead and let's get on into you in the present day.
Yeah.
And we're going to get a super easy one out of the way.
Okay.
How'd you pick the name?
Yeah. It was a relatively okay process. Joe and I had basically created a list. We each created a list. We kind of threw a few different ideas at each other back and forth. I'd always loved the word casual. It just like kind of fits my personality. I like to be casual, even though I'm a little bit type A, but like, I just think everything should be casual. I just feel like that's like my kind of idea. And then I forget who had Panic on their list of like kind of some words, and I kind of put the 2 together, and I was like, this is something that really could be cool once you like hear it a couple times.
Yeah.
And I sent it to Joe, and he's like, I don't know. I was like, just sleep on it, because we had like some silly stuff. We were really going like Flamingo Fever, and we're like, kind of getting a little bit too far out there. And because at a certain point, we weren't sure how serious we wanted to take it. Like we were like, we're messing around. Like, is this going to be anything? And then once we got the name, then we kind of started to be able to ideate around what like the brand could be, some colors, some design, some things like that. And then it was like, oh, we need to really like focus on this and make this a bigger thing.
Yeah. Hell yeah. No, that's rad.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about your writing process a little bit.
Yeah.
And we can either go with like how you approach music as yourself, or like how the band goes about it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to getting a track started, how do you go about it?
There's two ways that we do it. So we have a couple songs where I'll start on with an acoustic guitar, and I'll just write a chord progression and then come up with a melody. Then I send it to Joe, and he starts building out the instrumentation and the production around it. We've got a few songs like that. And so the majority of our songs, though, starts with Joe doing his producer thing and then coming up with an instrumental. It's kind of bare bones. It's got some nice stuff happening, and then I'm just reacting to it, and I'm writing the melody over the top. I really like to have like an idea around what like that lyric could be that I can kind of build the song around. And then it comes together relatively quickly. Once I can kind of get a verse and a chorus that I'm feel pretty good about, I send it to Joe. I kind of like, hey, how do you feel about this? And he's like, I either dig it or it's not quite there yet. And then we really start putting effort into it. I finish out the song if it's a green light. Then I send it back to Joe, and he starts, building out all the instrumentation. Then we do a handful of vocal takes, and then pretty soon we have a song.
Hell yeah, that's rad.
Yeah.
And then once you get a track finished writing, so it doesn't have to be like recorded and released per se, but once you got into the point where you can start like learning it, how long does it usually take you guys to get comfortable enough to perform a track?
I rehearse probably 6 days a week, so I'm doing it a couple hundred times, I would say, before I feel really comfortable. For some reason, I struggle remembering lyrics, so even though I write them, and so I have to it's muscle memory, and especially you get on stage and you're having a good time, you're moving around, like you just have to have it like in like the deep recesses of your brain so that you just aren't thinking, you're just kind of reacting. And so for me, it's just muscle memory and I just have to do all the reps to get it there. And then it just helps me kind of like lock in on the vocal too, because initially the vocals are going to be pretty rough, and then it starts to get smoothed out as we go.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to actually see you guys perform the night before this. So and it's cool because like something I did notice from your performance is that you are very animated on stage. You are very energetic. You're moving around. You're doing a lot, but there wasn't really like, I was checking out your actual music on Spotify, and the presentation is strong. Like your like delivery is really put together. It feels well rehearsed to the point where like, even though you were moving around on stage and you were being really interactive, that didn't diminish the performance at all. And I've definitely, I've talked to people who from all different ranges of music, and that's something that like can definitely be a case, is like giving up the performance to make the stage presence.
Yeah.
So it is cool to see that you have the delivery down to the point that it makes sense. You are well practiced.
Thank you.
And it definitely translates well.
Thank you. Yeah. That is based on just rehearsal. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what's the saying? If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready.
That's right. Yeah.
And like I said, I was checking out some of your music, and it is it's very comfortable. It's very dancey. It is, as you said, very nostalgic. It's vocal heavy, but it's also very full sounding. Like I appreciate that because you're just general synth and drummer. And so like for that type of arrangement to like have such a full sound really goes a long way. Yeah. And like you exist in this realm of like synth pop that I really appreciate. Like that's kind of like, that is like my general state of music. Right. And so to have that balance and to fill out live with a live drummer, like I think that is the funnest part, that your drums recorded translate well to a live setting.
Yeah. We were worried about that because we start with the produced drums, and then we were like, is someone gonna be able to step in and kind of do this? And fortunately we found someone who is just an absolute killer on the set. So we lucked out, and
it makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, hell yeah. And I was checking out your most recent track, Invisible, which just came out in May. And it's a really cool track. Like it's got a great pace, especially for not being a fast track.
Yeah.
Like it's not moving along, but it's moving, and that's I think there's a balancing act just in that alone, and all the elements to it, both like sonically and just like presentation wise, it's a really good vibe in general.
Cool. I like that. Well, that's one of my favorite songs, just like lyrically as well. It's kind of deep. It's really meant to, like I'm an only child, grew up, feeling lots of like moments of loneliness, and still as an adult, I think we all do, right? And we have these times where we don't really feel seen. And I know there's some people that are like, really strong introverts, and they don't really feel like they're a part of like the, conversation as much as they want to be. And I was feeling very, very kind of motivated to kind of document that and put that into a song, and that's kind of how Invisible kind of came about. And so for me, it like means a lot too. So when I sing it, it's a lot easier to get into it because I feel what those lyrics really are, not just for myself, but for like others that feel that way too.
Yeah, you can connect with it, and you know that it's a song that can be connected with, and I think that's a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But then I also do this bit where I pick out a track that I liked, that I wanted to talk about.
Nice.
And I went with Chasing Ghosts.
Okay.
It's a rad track. I mean, it starts out very solid. Like it starts out like, like your like the sound that I had gotten comfortable with up to that point. But then when the chorus comes in, the whole track just blows up. Like it turns into this completely other element. And like even like the post chorus and the way it moves from there, it never quite settles back into the beginning.
Right.
But it's just it's got this adventurous feeling to it. It's very it's like it got all these explosive sounds and all these fun movements, and it's a real roller coaster. Roller coaster of a track, but it is really fun. I enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That one's super fun to play out live. It's like one of our, big rock songs, if you will, and so we really, wanted to kind of amp it up. For a few shows, we will lead with that song, just kind of start the whole set with it because it kind of sets the tone and the pace, and it's just a banger, Yeah,
very much so. But I am curious to know, and I mean, you may have already said this, but what are some of your favorite songs to perform?
So this is a good question. We have probably 18 to 20 songs at this point, and we have a really tight 10-song set list right now, and those 10 are probably the favorites.
Okay.
And we've been really working hard to kind of refine what that live performance is going to feel like and what the songs are they're going to kind of fit into that set. So I will answer your question, though, but we do have a really kind of fine-tuned set list, and out of the 10... my favorite to perform is probably either Crossroads or The Answer.
Okay.
Both of those started on acoustic guitar, and like I could go to a coffee shop open mic and play them right now. But with Joe's instrumentation, he really took them to the next level, and I get excited because I get to hear how they've grown, and then they're super dancey, and the synths really kick in, and both of them, I think, are lyrically strong, sonically dynamic, and just like The Answer especially is so poppy, just real poppy. So and that's another one kind of like Chasing Ghosts where like the verse is pretty slow. You're getting into like what's the song going to be, and then once the chorus hits, just like, okay, now I can bop around to it.
Hell yeah, that's rad.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about some of the new music you're working on. What can you tell us about stuff that you've got cooking at the moment?
Yeah. So we have a new song called Caffeine that we played last night. We haven't released it yet. And it seemingly is going really well with the live performance. So I think that's a good indicator that we probably need to like put this thing out. We have another song called In This Moment that I absolutely love. It's another kind of like rocker, kind of a banger. I get a really belt on it. It was in the set last night, but I think that will probably be a release pretty soon too. And then we have a really great synth version of Wonderwall, which sadly you missed last night, but I think it was the hit of the night, if you will. And the timing's right with Oasis kind of announcing their reunion. So we started working on this synth version, I don't know, 6 months ago, and it's just gotten better and better and better. And we're just having so much fun playing it because everyone wants to sing along.
Yeah.
And with original music, like some people kind of know our songs, some people know some lyrics, but not all that much.
Yeah.
everyone knows Wonderwall.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone knows every lyric to Wonderwall. So like, oh, I can dance to this song. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, that's a game. Now I'm really sad that I missed that one. but that is smart. And I mean, it's a tall order to take on a track like that. You know what I mean? Because it's one of those ones where if you nail it, yes, the room's going to blow up.
Yeah.
If you don't nail it,
yeah,
the room's going to blow up, or the room's going to implode.
Right.
Like it can turn on you as fast as it can turn things up. So
it's a high risk, high reward, you know?
Exactly.
And I was a little bit skeptical, to be honest with you. And I was like, is this sacrilege to like try to, this is in the zeitgeist. Like, I don't know if this is something that we could properly do.
Yeah.
But I think our take on it is so different and such a departure that we really do own what we're doing with it. And it's obviously inspired and will always like have like I think the essence of what Wonderwall was really trying to do.
Yeah.
But it's just going to be a very like modern version. And I don't like to brag too much about our own music, but I did have this lady come up to me after the set last night, and she's like, I'm from Manchester, and that was the best version of Wonderwall I've ever heard. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Yeah, hell yeah. Hey,
and then she bought me a beer. I was like, you are
perfect.
British people are awesome. Yeah.
Well, shout out to her.
Yeah, no, thank you. We're Elise, I think your name was. Yeah. Thank you so much. You're awesome.
Hell yeah. Now let's go ahead and let's zoom out a little bit. Let's talk about kind of music as a whole.
Yeah.
And for this, you can either answer it if you're one of those people who listens to new music as far as like new music goes, or just music that's new to you. Sure. But what are some of the things about newer music that you enjoy and you're finding inspiration in at the moment?
You know, when I was in high school, I was very anti-pop, so was Joe. We were like really kind of like the hard rock thing, and pop music just was like, that's silly and kind of trivial and ridiculous. Now I have such an appreciation for what it is and the simplicity of it. I think that it's Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter that's got like this like loop that they're running, and it's basically a very simple sample.
Yeah. And
it's just earworms. It's just like catch your attention, and it's just that tight little melody. And as simple as it may be, that's what makes it so great. Is it's hard to get simple. It's really easy to add a bunch of stuff and throw layers on. I mean, I always have to tell Joe, like, hey, back off a little bit of the production. Like, we don't need that many things going on with it. Simplicity to do well, and then to execute it in a way that, like, millions of people are just going to love it. Like, I have a real respect and appreciation for that I don't think I previously had. So that kind of, like, growth in my musical mindset, I think, is kind of nice to see. And that's what I'm seeing with these pop stars that are blowing up right now and have for a long time. But there's something so catchy, something so hooky that you just like can't stop thinking about it, singing it. It's in your head, you know, you're going to bed and it's like you're in the shower, it's going through your head. That's something we're trying to accomplish as well. You know, like if we have a new song we're working on, it's like, is this going to be something that gets stuck in someone's head? That is a little bit of the criteria that we're aiming for.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's an important goal to have just in general. It doesn't have to be the case with like every single song per se when you're in album mode.
Yeah.
But especially for stuff that you want to be getting out there and you want to be performing in front of people, you want them to either be able to sing it afterwards or the best case scenario, have them singing the chorus by the second chorus. Like,
absolutely.
If you can create something where by the time they've heard it one time, they've got it locked in for the next one. That just, it goes such a long way for live music in particular.
Absolutely. I agree.
Now, before we get into the next part, which is all hypothetical questions, the next question is probably the densest question in the interview.
Cool.
But we've talked a lot about, you know, your experience with music, the actions, the reactions. But when it's just you and the music one-on-one, what does music give back to you?
It's been everything for me. You know, we all have our ups and downs in life as we go through longer phases of life and experience different things, relationships, broken relationships, career changes, pandemics. You know, the mental health game is so critical, and like how you manage that. There's a lot of different ways to manage it. For me, I sunk myself into music and built a music studio in my house. And during the pandemic, it was every night, staying up till 11, midnight, working on music, being dialed into either writing. Maybe I was just karaokeing, just doing some stuff, just expressing myself. And I don't want to be too hyperbolic, but I think it's life-saving to a certain degree for me. I have this creative outlet that's fulfilling and rewarding, and I have fun doing it, and I can talk about it every single day. And Joe and I do talk about it every single day. And it's kind of given me this opportunity to fully express myself in a way that I have always wanted to, and didn't really know what was the right pathway to do that, or the right expression. And I didn't know that I wanted to wear pink shirts every day, that kind of thing. But when I'm in it, it really feels like this is what I am meant to be doing, what I want to be doing, what I would pay money to do. And that's a really good feeling. And, someone who's, doing something for passion and the love of it, you probably understand that as well. It's like this creative outlet, this place that you can sink your energy into. It means everything. It's so rewarding.
Yeah, very much so. It even sounds like it gives you kind of like a sense of purpose almost.
Yeah. Purpose is a big word. But it's accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The presentation of purpose, I think a lot of people have put into like, this is your ultimate calling to change the entirety of the world. But purpose is just a reason to take your hat off the hanger and put it on. It's what drives you to want to excel and grow, to reach new levels as a person, to be accomplishing things.
Yeah.
And very much so. I mean, in music, there are definitely people who like, they get the process and they just kind of do it for themselves. There are people who like, they want to be the biggest and baddest and this and that. But I think at its core, like the reason for making music is because it is where we as people can find a sense of purpose. And that is just wonderful. I think any kind of art in general, but music in particular really has this element where like you can give and receive what you give to people just by them sharing their experience.
Totally agree. And, you're tapping into like universal truths and getting people to relate. And I think that's something really helpful and beneficial. And then, what is really rewarding too is like you're building something. You're building a brand. You're building an album. You're stacking songs up. You're building a live performance. A content machine. Like all these things, you look back and you're like, wow, a year ago I can't believe we're here, or 2 years ago I can't believe we're here now. And the building of something feels really, really good.
Yeah, and it's cool too because even like when you're in the middle of a step, there's a reward in the action. Like the second you do something, you're like, wow, I did this thing. Look at this thing. And then like you said, to be able to come back to it 2 years later and be like, this thing I did, look at it now. It's always ever growing. And like there's like, there's almost a nostalgia in being able to create something to be able to come back to it later. And it timestamps you. I think that's my favorite part of anything in this realm, is that you get to go back and you remember. You remember the mood you were in, you remember the room you were in, like the weather outside, almost like you get to relive that moment in time that led to it forever.
You're really right with that. And what's so cool is, when we do a live performance, it is the best day of the year for me. Like I have so much fun doing it, and it's my favorite thing in the world. But the second best day of the year is when we have a new song, and Joe and I are talking about it. We can't wait to like share it. Like we both get so much energy from it, and it's just like revitalizing for us. So that's something I actually have to keep my mind focused on. It's like we need to continue to like write new stuff. That feeling is such a good feeling.
Yeah, especially when you're like locked in on the space of it. Like once you get that moment where you're like, okay, this is happening, like there really is not a lot else like it.
And it's such a great process too, because over the course of time you realize like they're not all going to be bangers, they're not all going to be like the song that you want it to be. So you have to toss a bunch to the side. You'll try something like that doesn't really work and try something else. And so it's kind of like fun to see the evolution progression too. And I think as humans we want to grow and progress, and if we're not, like we're really kind of like starting to die, and so music allows that as well. And I keep like thinking about how I'm not saying I'm a good musician now, but I was a terrible singer for a long time in my life. I was like really more into like acoustic singer-songwriter stuff that was really not right for me. It didn't really suit my personality, but I enjoyed that kind of storytelling element. So to see just the growth and evolution of music in my life, it shows like I'm I'm getting closer to the person that I want to be, and I think that is an ultimately like a really like good goal to have for yourself.
Yeah, very much so. Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
But now let's go ahead and we're going to move on to some hypothetical questions.
Great.
And for these, sky's the limits. The questions are all made up, so the answers are allowed to be as well. But this first one's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
If you could work with any one person, the only requirement is they have to be alive.
Okay.
Who would you want to work with, and how would you want to work with them?
Okay. So the first name that pops into my head is Jared Leto.
Okay.
I think 30 Seconds to Mars is like this really phenomenal project that they've been doing for a long time. He's a great vocalist. It seems like he's extremely creative.
Yeah.
And loves the process of creating and loves the process of a performance. And he kind of, is a chameleon in that he can present himself in a lot of different ways. But I think like his work with 30 Seconds to Mars and what he's doing as a lead singer is probably the most authentic of what he really is. And just kind of like being around that I think would be like really beneficial.
Yeah, hell yeah. Rad.
Yeah.
And then subsequently, who's a local artist that you're aware of that you haven't gotten to connect with yet, but you would like to?
There's this band called King Youngblood.
Okay.
And they rock. I mean, they just shred. They've got this lead singer who can just absolutely tear it up on guitar. I've had a chance to like say hi to him. I've seen him, a couple times at some shows, and unfortunately, they had a show last night, and obviously couldn't. Couldn't make it to that one. But I can see the dedication, the passion, the talent. It's all kind of there, and they just really put on a phenomenal show and performance. And I think it'd be really cool to just, I don't know, have some collaboration at some point, or share a bill even, it'd be really cool. Yeah.
Well, everybody, you know what to do. At them in the comments. Let's see if we can make that happen.
Love it.
And then for this next one, like I said before, sky's the limits, and it's pretty literal in this sense.
Okay.
But if you could perform anywhere in the world, and you wouldn't have to worry about crowd access or building stability or power, it was guaranteed the best lineup, guaranteed the best show, and it doesn't have to be a venue. It could be anywhere.
Okay.
Where would you want to perform?
There is a stadium in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and it holds like 100,000 people.
Okay.
And Latin Americans love music. They love rock music. They're a passionate crowd. I think doing a show there would probably be so electrifying. I'd probably just stroke out and die. Like, it would just be like, this is it. I can go out now. Like, and I'm cool with it. So that would be the absolute dream destination.
Hell yeah, that'd be rad.
Yeah.
All right, and then to wrap up the hypothetical questions, if you could get one more album from anybody, they could be alive, they could be dead, they could have not put out an album in 100 years, they could have put out an album yesterday. Who would you want an album from?
This is a really good question. I really love a lot of the later work of Duran Duran. And I think if they were to like drop something hot right now, I would just be like ready to go.
Hell yeah.
I think that would be really cool. Like Come Undone and Ordinary World and some of these like really beautiful melodic songs I will put on repeat and listen to over and over. I never get tired of them.
Yeah.
Both of those songs are like my top 10 songs. And I think, it'd be cool to see them. I know they still tour. I think the last time they were in town, I went and saw them, so they could easily put another album out.
Okay, hell yeah. No, I mean, even still, that'd be rad to put one out now.
Yeah.
All right, and with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. Cool. What can we look forward to between, let's say, now and April?
Yeah, so we have decided we're going to really focus on putting an album out.
Nice.
And so we've got a handful of songs ready. We're going to re-record some of our earlier stuff. I think Joe's gotten much better at mixing and mastering and producing. I've gotten better at recording vocals. It is not my strength.
It's definitely its own process.
It really is. Yeah, much more challenging than I was expecting. So we'll spend some time doing that, really getting them ready. And then, it's hard to rehearse and do that. So we probably won't do some shows for a little while. And that'll be nice to kind of like focus in and writing new stuff. I'm feeling really inspired to write right now. I'm feeling I've taken a little time away, and I need to get back into that kind of creative kind of feeling. And so I'm really ready to spend some time doing that too.
Oh yeah, well, that's exciting. I think it's important to take breaks from the creative process, but it's more important to jump on it when it wants the attention.
Yeah.
Being able to be like, right now, creativity is happening.
Yep.
Being able to actually lean into that always goes the best.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're feeling it, like, and you can't force it, but you know, I can tell like when I'm down in the room, I got the lights on, and like I'm listening to some music, I'm like, I'm ready to do some stuff here. Like it's coming.
Oh yeah. Well, definitely looking forward to an album from y'all.
Thank you.
For this next one, go and look straight at the camera. Tell everybody how they can find you.
Yeah. So we'd really love for you to follow us on Instagram. It's Casual Panic Music. We're also on YouTube, and we're kind of starting to get a TikTok going here, but that's a little bit more TBD. But Instagram is a great way, and then you can get our website at casualpanicband.com.
Hell yeah. And then any other plugs, any other shout outs, anybody else you'd like to put on while you're on here?
I'm just really thankful for you inviting us to do this. And, you know, really thankful for all the people that came out last night to our show, of course. And the people that have just had nothing but positive, encouraging words for us. You know, I'm sure you've done plenty of interviews where people talk about this is not an easy gig. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of passion. It's a struggle at times, and there's a lot of times where you're like, why am I even doing this? You know, and then you get a little bit of momentum, or you have something positive happen, or you write a hook that you love, and it's just
it just all
get
comes
away.
back.
Yeah, man, it's a healthy addiction, and the people that are supportive, it means everything. It's really the world, because then it just kind of gives you a little bit more juice to kind of keep it going.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, we've got one last question to go. But before we do, I'm going to steal the camera for just a second.
Go for it.
As always, y'all, please make sure to like, subscribe, push all the buttons, do all the things. You know, I don't know where they are, but you do, and I trust you. One more shout out to the Brothers Apothecary, Ronald Records, and Portland Water. Thanks for keeping us hydrated. And one more shout out to Undercaste Studios for having us here. And we'll be back soon. And with that being said, the final question. And this is entirely up to your interpretation.
Okay.
But what is an album you feel is more on the obscure side? So it's a deep cut. It's one not a lot of people would know.
Okay.
It's one you think everybody should know.
All right. So there's this band called Typo Negative, and they had probably their kind of run in, I would say, late 80s to like through the 90s. The lead singer, Peter Steele, has passed away, unfortunately. But they have a couple albums that on initial listening, you might not be into if you're not into that kind of music. But it's so powerful. His voice is incredible. The lyrics are phenomenal. The music, I mean, the guitar players are just hitting these beautiful melodies. It's very heavy. It's very melodic. It's not something you would normally listen to, but it's one of my favorite things to introduce friends to that are not quite into that kind of genre of music, because they're like, wow, this is really something that is good. And I'm like, I know. And you wouldn't expect it. And I think that's what's cool. Like when it's unexpected, it just opens your mind up to like what, you know, what else is out there. And so I think that's so any one of Typo Negative's albums from 89 to 99, you're going to find something good there.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a super solid rec. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And this has been another exciting episode of Jimmy's Jambox. I'm Jimmy.
This is Tyler with Casual Panic.
And we're signing off. Later, y'all.
That's a wrap.
This is not a podcast. This is a show.
Keep jamming.